Chapter 23, Vacation. By that evening, Albie, Flossie, Vera, and Trey had joined me in the French settlement. Like me, they all seemed a little stunned to find themselves there. Volunteers from various countries will stay in your settlement to nurse the sick and manage the chores, Commander Laurent told us. You children have handled enough already, so you'll remain here until everyone is healthy again. The French fed us a big meal and then set us up in comfortable bedrooms. We even got to take hot showers since they had a different energy technology than we did and weren't affected by the storm as much. But despite being clean and fed and warm, we were uneasy. We never slept anywhere but our own home. Now we were in this foreign place with people we didn't know. Vera seemed especially suspicious. Why are they being so nice to us? She asked as we all huddled in the bedroom I was sharing with Trey and Albie. Albie shrugged. Maybe they're actually nice? You didn't see them chasing us with those weapons? Vera told him. Well, they did rescue me from the train, Trey said. But what if we're wrong about them? Vera asked. What if they're not good people? Flossie, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, said, Vera's got a point. I mean, remember what Cy told us about how they left Lissa to die? I don't know if we can trust them. No one said anything for a moment. They've been feeding Leo for months, I told them. Well, now we know why he's getting so fat, Albie said with a wry look. I think anyone who takes care of a cat is probably good, I said. But Vera wasn't convinced. We'll see, she said. Amelie showed me around the settlement. Things were different there. For one, it was much bigger with more people. There was even a baby human. I had never seen one in real life, just in digreels. We watched as the baby shoveled algae porridge into his mouth with a spoon. Most of it ended up on his shirt or on his face or on the floor. What's the baby's name? I asked. Theo, his mother told me. She had algae porridge all over her shirt, courtesy of her child. Amelie turned to me. Oh, they should have named him Poo Poo. His diapers smell terrible. As we walked down the corridors, we passed people from different countries coming and going. It was still hard to absorb that other countries were in daily contact. And they traded all sorts of goods, too, which is how I got to try my first earthed chicken egg. The French cook scrambled it for me and served it with toast for breakfast. The egg looked fluffy, like yellow clouds. Well, Amelie asked, do you like it? It's delicious, I said. When I'd cleaned my plate, I asked the cook if I could have more. Of course. I can't do a French accent. Of course, he told me. Why does everyone speak English? I asked him. It's the common language for space, he said. If a Russian ship and a Chinese ship need to communicate, they'll use English. That's why we all know it. After breakfast, Amelie and I went upstairs to the communications room. We were both curious about the storm. Bonjour, Armand, Amelie said to the gray-haired man sitting behind a desk. Bonjour, Amelie, he said with a smile. But when he saw me, he turned pale, like he'd seen a ghost. You, he exclaimed. You were the child I saw in the rover. I stepped back nervously. You were the one who chased us with those weapons? What weapons? Amelie asked. They were waving metal weapons at us, like earth swords. Armand burst out laughing. Those were golf clubs. What? Amelie rolled her eyes. Honestly, she could seriously give Vera a run for her money when it came to attitude. You hit a ball with them, she said. It's a game. Armand walked over to a corner and pulled out one of the golf clubs, and then he put a ball on the floor and gently hit it. That's what we were doing, he said. Amelie seemed unimpressed. Ping-pong is much more fun. Why'd you chase us? I asked him. Children should not be driving rovers, Armand said dryly. In fact, I tried contacting the American settlement using the old line, but we were blocked and couldn't get a message through. I can't imagine Commander Cy was happy to learn that you'd taken the rover. You know Cy? I asked. Of course, I said. Armand said, pointing to a digipic taped to the wall. It was a picture of a party. There was a younger Psy there, dressed like an Earth pirate, and next to him was a young version of Commander Laurent. She was in a similar getup, and there were other familiar faces as well, Darby and Ileana and Salty Bill and Phineas, and they were all wearing costumes. That was a very famous Halloween party, he told me. Your Commander Psy and our Commander Laurent won for best costume, he told me. They were a pair of pirates. I remembered the award in Psy's box. Amelie grabbed my arm. Come on, she said. I got a lot more to show you. And as we walked away, Armand called to me. Welcome to the French settlement, Belle. Don't drive any rovers. As the days passed, we got more comfortable. Everyone was so kind and tried to put us at ease, and also our grown-ups were slowly getting better. The Finnish doctor was staying at our settlement and expected them to make a full recovery. Finally, the knot of worry that we had been carrying loosened. I remembered memes telling me about an earth practice called taking a vacation. People would go somewhere and do nothing except maybe eat or lie around on the beach. Being in the French settlement felt like taking a vacation. While there was no beach, it was relaxing and we did a lot of eating. My favorite dish was something called a crepe, a thin pancake with chocolate sauce. It was the most perfect meal ever invented. Breakfast and dessert all rolled up into one. The best part was simply being around other kids my age. Tavi and Wei visited every few days. Along with Amelie, we spent hours together playing ping pong. Tavi said I was a natural. Maybe my gift was being good at playing ping pong. Trey and another boy, Remy, spent their time riding on a board with wheels, a skateboard, up and down the long corridors. Now, to be fair, Trey spent a lot of that time falling off the skateboard, but he seemed pretty happy just to be doing it. Flossie, naturally, was obsessed with how the French dressed. She and her new friends spent hours creating outfits and debating fashion. Then there was Albie. Sweet, kind Albie couldn't seem to remember how to speak when he was anywhere near a French girl named Layla. She had long, dark hair and a warm smile. I didn't understand what it was about her that made Albie start stammering. It was as if his mouth forgot how to work. Amelie and I were watching a didgeridoo with Layla in the recreation room when Albie walked in. He saw us and froze. Bonjour, Albie, Layla said. Hi, he said. Would you like to join us? She asked him. We're watching a didgeridoo of a music concert on Earth. A look of pure terror crossed his face. No thanks, he shouted and practically ran out of the room. Layla turned to me, a quizzical look on her face. Does he not like music? Oh, he loves music, I told her. Oh, she said. Albie can be a little shy, I guess. Well, he seems very nice, she mused. Oh, he is, I assured her, except for the snoring part. But despite all the kindness, Vera remained suspicious of the food, of the people, even the shampoo. Is my hair supposed to be this shiny? She asked me. Her hair looked soft and lovely. I didn't understand what she was so upset about. Well, at least it's clean, I told her. Hey, can you pass me another Madeleine? She and I were having an afternoon snack in the kitchen, and the cook had made something called madeleines, which were mini cakes in the shape of an earth shell, and they were delicious. A man with curly dark hair and thick glasses walked over to our table. Bonjour, he said. Bonjour, I said. Vera didn't say anything. I'm Gaspard, he said. Do you remember me, Vera? Now, I was expecting her to say something snarky, but instead she just stared at him. Then the man began singing in French. It sounded like a lullaby. I can't sing it. Au clair de la lune, mon ami Pierrot, prends-moi la plume pour écrire un mot. Sorry, I tried. Vera's eyes suddenly widened and her lips trembled. Are you my nanny? Oui, he said and smiled. It's very good to see you, Vera. Vera leapt up, threw her arms around him and started to cry. He patted her back and smiled fondly. It's nice to see you haven't changed. My favorite place here, too, was the algae farm. Like us, the French grew lots of algae, plus vegetables and fruit, and tomatoes, green beans, strawberries, and lettuces. But they also grew earth flowers in all sorts of colors. The person in charge of the farm was named Jules, and she took great delight in showing me her experiments. Right now, she was growing something called a lemon tree. Didn't look like much at the moment, but she said that it would eventually smell delicious. Just being in the farm was comforting. It reminded me of Phineas. I could hear his voice in the hum of the soft lights. I could see him in the green shoots of the hydroponic pots. I knew he'd love it here. He'd be curious, taking notes and asking questions. Tell me, he would say, what kind of fertilizer? Which seeds? How much light? One afternoon, I was wandering around the farm when I spotted Commander Laurent. She was cutting some purple flowers. She saw me and smiled. Bonjour, Belle. What are you doing? I asked her. Well, she said, sitting back on her heels, this is called lavender. I'll dry it, I'll put it in fabric pouches and stick them under my pillow. The scent of lavender is very good for sleep. I said. Does it help with snoring? She laughed and shook her head. Well, I'm afraid not. Oh, too bad, I said. Now tell me, she said, how are you finding things here? Good, I said. I really like the food. And ping pong. Well, I'm glad to hear that, she said. Why do you grow flowers? I asked. Her eyes crinkled. Well, what do you mean? Do you eat them or do you use them for medicine? She shook her head, looking amused. Well, we grow them because they're beautiful. Everyone needs joy. I guess that was as good a reason as any. I was very sorry to hear about Phineas's passing, she told me. My head shot up. You knew him? We, she said. We worked together on adapting the algae growing process for Mars. He was a brilliant and gentle man, and I learned a lot from him. I miss him, I admitted. Of course you do, she said. He was a wonderful person. It's terribly hard to lose someone you love. How do I stop missing him? I asked her. By remembering him, she said simply. I shook my head. Tell me your favorite memories of Phineas, she urged. Well, he was a farmer on Earth in a place called New California. Bunnies lived in his yard, I said. Go on, she encouraged me. And his wife made a good carrot cake. When I was little, he would carry me around the farm on his shoulders, and he taught me how to plant seeds, and he kept cookies in a jar on his desk, just for me. Well, if you remember all these things, then he'll never really be gone, she told me. I didn't say anything. Now, would you like to help me plant some herbs? Sure, I said. As we walked to get supplies, I asked her, have you heard about the evil earth plants called weeds? The teenagers got together and decided to throw a party, mostly because they wanted to dance. We want to try some old earth styles, Flossie said. They invited kids from all the settlements and pushed the furniture up against the walls of the rec room. Music blared as the teens did all sorts of dances. They started doing the Charleston, swinging their arms and moving their legs back and forth. And then they did the moonwalk, gliding backward while they looked like they were stepping forward. I didn't understand what the moon had to do with it. And finally they tried voguing, which was just posing with their hands in weird positions. Trey came over to me with Remy. Hey, Belle, you're never going to believe this. What? I asked. I found out what happened to the digicam outside, Trey said. The one that was broken? Remy gave a sheepish look. Yeah, sorry about that. It was you? How? Well, a couple of us sort of borrowed a rover and drove to your settlement, and I guess we weren't paying attention and we hit the pole. It was an accident, he said with a wince. I shook my head. What were you guys doing by our settlement? I asked. I don't know, we were just curious, Remy said with a shrug. And it was oddly reassuring to know that we weren't the only kids on Mars who got into trouble. After watching the teens do an earth dance called breakdancing, which involved spinning on the floor, Amelie turned to me. "I'm hungry," she said. "Let's get some of those cookies before they eat them all." We were walking back from the kitchen, our pockets stuffed with cookies, when Amelie elbowed me. She pointed down the hall, and there, in a darkened alcove, were Albie and Layla. And they were kissing. "Bisou, bisou," Amelie said and made a kissy face. "Bleh," I said, and she nodded. It didn't matter where we were from. We could all agree that teenagers were strange.